Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Bonnie Cohen. I'm a documentary filmmaker and a huge fan of this film, Eddie's World. I'm really happy to be spending time with this amazing crew of people. I want to get introductions going. I'd like to first introduce Lynn Goldfarb, the producer and director of Eddie's World. Hi, Lynn. And
Hi.
Janet Gargi, producer of Eddie's World, a longtime friend of mine and colleague. I'm very happy that she asked me to be here today. Janet, are you there?
Hi, everyone. Sun just is shining through here in Seattle. It's a shocker.
Blessings on a day like today. And of course, last but not least, Eddie Goldfarb, the star of Eddie's World, who I'm just thrilled to have a chance to spend some time chatting with today. And hopefully we can ask Eddie and Lynn and Janet some questions about this amazing film. We have to turn Eddie's camera on, though. There we are. Hi, Eddie.
Hi.
It's a little strange doing these Q&As when you can't actually see who you're talking to, but just imagine an enthusiastic, rapturous crowd out there cheering wildly for the film. And that's who we have in the audience.
Good.
I wanted to start out, Janet knows this, of course, but I also have a 98-year-old father who is very well and healthy, and I spend a lot of time hearing other people ask him this question over and over again. What is your secret? How do you stay so vibrant and alive and well and stimulated at your age? And it's pretty obvious after watching the film, Eddie, what some of your answers are. But my takeaway from my own father and my experience with him and what I see in you is just this incredible innate curiosity and drive to continue discovering and finding new ways to create projects and stimulate your mind and write and just be actively involved in the world around you with the people that are in your life, but also just the world at large. Does that ring true for you? Is that the right characterization of the secret to your lifelong success?
Well, I think you're on the right track. You're partially right. Also, I was born lucky. And I have a sister who's 2 years younger than I am, which makes her 97. And she's doing pretty well. And
so the genes are good genes.
The genes are really good genes. So we are fortunate.
Well, I don't think every father gets to have their daughter or their son spend the kind of time that you and Lynn got to spend together making this film. It's a very particular kind of intimate experience, and probably, I'm guessing, a very different kind of experience than you've had in the past in your relationship. Lynn, I'm wondering if you could talk about that, just your desire to make this film and spend this kind of time with your father, and what brought you to this idea of bringing him forward in this way in the film format.
Well, as a documentary filmmaker, I've always looked for interesting stories, and people who in their presence really, changed the world around them in a certain way. And one day I realized that, kind of, oh my God, my dad is that way as well. I've always respected him for his work, but I never thought of him, really as a subject, of the film. And I was starting with a family legacy project where I started interviewing him. And then as soon as he started telling stories and talking, I realized this would be a wonderful film. And for me, one of the great things about it was the time that we got to spend together. I got to see my father's world in a way that I don't see as his daughter. And even, we'd never come visit him and follow him around as he worked. And the fact that we were able to do that and see his world through his eyes, and just to observe my dad at work was really, one of the most incredible experiences. So I feel very, very lucky to have been able to spend this time that we're able to spend this time together.
When you were a little girl, did you ever spend time in his workshop or following him around? I mean, for a kid, I'm guessing that having a toy maker in the family is pretty special and unusual.
Well, one of the things that was interesting, first of all, my dad had a shop and he went to work every day, and so we didn't see all the interactions at home. He brought toys home, and we tested them and we played with them. But also at home, we had a locked room where all the ideas were. And so it wasn't like this, that he was making toys all around us, but we were always testing toys and experiencing toys and getting our reactions to them.
Well, there are some that I remember from my childhood. So I remember them so dramatically. I sort of remember where I was when I was playing with them. They're so iconic, and I'm really interested, Eddie, in the way in which you took your fascination and passion for physics and working with your hands and anything related to math and science, and turning that into this incredibly creative, kind of like hitting right into the vortex of what kids would be interested in, and I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because it seems like your brain works in a mathematical and scientific way, but the way it comes out on the page or in the plastic forms and the plastic models is in this kind of inspirational, fun, quirky way that a kid can understand. And that's not always such an easy road, that get that path from one to the next. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and your drive to be creative with this, with science and math.
Well, again, I was very lucky. I knew since I was a little kid that I wanted to be an inventor. And I also knew that I wanted to be an independent inventor. All the companies that make things and do things like that have wonderful inventors working for them. But I wanted to be independent and go from one company to another. My dad, I have a very, very early memory of my dad bringing home an inventor for dinner.
Oh, wow.
That's when I learned what an inventor was. I must have been 4 or 5 years old, maybe younger. And from then on, I knew that that's what I was going to be. And during the war, I realized that in order to be a successful inventor, I better specialize in one industry and learn something about that industry, because before the war, all through high school and all that, I invented all kinds of things and went from one industry to another and got nowhere. So I chose toys because I felt that wouldn't take any money, because I didn't have any. So that's how I started in toys. And I started making my own models, and I was a pretty good half-ass model maker. But as soon as I could afford to hire people, I hired wonderful model makers and sculptors and designers and engineers. So I really had a very nice staff going on for years and years and years.
It's fantastic. Jannat, you saw this project pretty early on. I mean, you were taken with it, I know, from the very beginning. And I'm wondering, I mean, it's such a loving, beautiful portrait. But you know, there are a lot of loving, beautiful portraits out there. This one is just very special. And I'm wondering if you can kind of characterize what it was that really struck you on film about the way in which Lynn captured Eddie's life.
Sure. Yes. I met Lynn about 2.5 years ago, and she shared a 4 or 5 minute sample of what she'd been capturing with Eddy. And, you know, Eddy, you're so captivating. And I was really drawn to your creative process. Like, where do you get ideas? Where do you get inspiration? You know, how do you translate that idea into the form of a tangible object? And of course, we all have parents, and we all, you know, at an age where we have, you know, older parents. So my father was a very creative being. He was an author and a playwright and a filmmaker. And so, you know, being a child of a creative parent, I was also drawn to this story. And I wish, you know, I had spent time and gotten to know my father in this way and had the opportunity to make a film like this. So for all those reasons, and just, you know, the approach to it too is very light and bright and fun. And in these times that we're living in, these crazy, crazy times, I'm just so happy that, you know, being on the other side of completing this film, and Lynn, you know, you've just done a terrific job here, to see something that's just uplifting and inspiring and hopeful. And I hope we can all be as creative and you know, still creating at this age. So
Yeah, it is very beautiful. And there's also a simplicity to the story that I think is very relieving these days also, you know, not just the beauty of the love and the relationship, but there's a simplicity to the story. And just, you know, Eddy, you went out and you had this particular, you were dealt this particular hand, and you knew what you wanted to do, and you went out after it passionately, whether it was the work you were doing or the wife that you wanted, or the, you know, there's kind of a similarity to the way in which you went after, you know, your first date with your wife, to the way you went after your first patent. You just have this, there's a simplicity to the zeal and the verve with which you go forward in your life. And that too, to me, feels very fresh and necessary right now. It's a wonderful reminder of what life can bring when you break it down just to the simplicity of what is important to you as an individual. And I felt like that really came through beautifully in the film, and obviously through the eyes of a daughter who knows you in one context but got to know you in this other one. So that's really lovely. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit, Lynn, about the score for this film, which was just fun and delightful, and working with the composer who really kind of matched Eddy's work in a synchronous way that was playful but also very lovely and strong.
Well, I had, you know, the good fortune to really be able to work with Miriam Cutler, and we worked at a time actually when she was incredibly busy she had just finished RBG, and she was, like, you know, composing a number of films. And actually with the short we worked where she brought us different pieces of music, you know, and she looked at, it was a real collaboration. What is the sense? What is the, you know, the tone? And she would look at the film, and she would, you know, actually give us sometimes a few choices, you know, which was really nice. But she, from the beginning, you know, the film also really attracted her, you know, because of, I think, the same, you know, kind of story of a father and the playfulness. And you know, Miriam has done films about circuses before and about kind of that, she's done heavy films and she's done very light, you know, energetic films. And so I think she put together a perfect score of music. And I worked with her and I worked with our music editor as well, Catherine Joy, who was a collaborator of Miriam's. And together, the three of us really were able to, and with our editor, of course, Shauna Carroll,
Right.
able to put the music together, the score together.
Eddy, how did it make you feel to see yourself on film this way? What was that experience like for you?
Uh, it's hard to explain. It's very nice. I'm very proud of Lynn, and hopefully I did a good job, like so many the other fathers we know. They all did a great job. It's very nice and unexpected, and I appreciate it.
Oh, that's lovely. Is there anything that cropped up for the two of you that was difficult? Was there anything that got left on the cutting room floor that you just can't believe Lynn left out of the film?
I don't think so. The older you get, the more you can talk about the old days. We could have gone on for hours, but I think she did a very good job.
You know, one of the things for me in doing this film is that my father was always busy. He was always working on another project, working on another toy, doing something. And so one of the big challenges was like getting his attention, you know, just saying, you know, we really need to do this. And he just, I'm
Right.
so busy now. Can you know, come back, let you know, can we do it a different time? And so that was probably the biggest challenge, was getting him this, you know, give us the amount of time that we needed
For the interview and to get the interviews done and all of that.
The interviews and also just the B-roll. I mean, I remember one day when we were filming in the garage, in his machine shop in the garage, that he was busy working on something that he needed to deliver. And we just said, okay, we're going to send our camera person in, Scott B, and he's going to follow you around and we won't say a word to you, you know, so just try to ignore us. And I think that was like one of our best days of actually seeing him at work, because we didn't talk to them. We didn't try to engage. We just followed him, which was really a privilege.
And really captured him.
Mhm.
Yeah. I really loved the patent drawings
Mhm.
that were included in some of the little animations that you did of those patent drawings, where I almost felt like I was inside, Eddy, of your brain, you know, your creative brain. Those I thought added such a lovely, important aspect of the inventing process.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that was nice is that patents are available. So they're all in the, you know, you can look up all the patents right now on the internet. It used to not be that way. So we were able to find the drawings, and I have really a wonderful graphic artist, you know, animator, Randy Kubasek, who just loved the film and was so energized by it and really came up with some of the really creative ideas. I mean, if I had left it to him, the whole film would have been animation, you know, because
you could see why, because it was
Yeah.
so much fun. I'm going to ask one more thing, and then I'm going to turn over to some questions that are coming in from the audience. Eddy, did you invent air hockey?
Air hockey. I'm trying to remember back. Air hockey as a toy. Air hockey came out as if I remember correctly, an arcade machine.
But as a toy, you
Yes, I did the first toy air hockey, right.
I played that game with my brother in the basement of our house for hours and hours growing up. And when it came up on the screen, I almost fell over because it is such an iconic memory of my childhood. So I can thank you for that that incredible time I had with my brother.
Good, good.
There are some questions coming in here. Let me see. This is for Eddie. If you could choose one invention that made you the proudest, what would it be?
Oh, that's awfully hard. That's like, just like asking me to pick one of my kids.
Maybe
Uh,
you could, is there maybe an anecdote that you could tell about one of your inventions that where you felt particularly proud, maybe not the proudest?
well, I could tell you an interesting story. The film opens up with the bubble blower, and I made that bubble gun, and it looks exactly the way we made it right from the beginning. And I thought it was terrific. And I showed it to all the toy companies, starting with Mattel, the biggest, and every one of them turned it down because they said that, Eddie, you can buy a bottle of bubble fluid for 39 cents with a wand in it. So why are you going to pay $4 or $5 maybe for a bubble gun, a motorized bubble gun? And in walked a new manufacturer, and I showed him an item the previous year that really got him started. A basketball game that you hung on the door of your bathroom or someplace, and he did well with that. And he wanted another item, and I showed this to him, and he said exactly the same thing. But he was there with his girlfriend Bonnie, and his girlfriend said, John, you're going to make that item. And he says, no, I'm not. Anyone can buy a bottle of bubble fluid for 39 cents. Why would they spend that kind of money for a motorized bubble gun? And that went on for at least 40 minutes. And finally he said, okay, I'll take it. They weren't married then. And and the rest of the story is he did make it. It was a huge success right from the beginning. It started 4 or 5 other companies making more expensive bubble blowers for kids.
Did
So,
Bonnie turn into a wife or did she remain a
yeah,
girlfriend?
she turned into a wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So he took her advice and look what happened.
And he became that was the start of a long series of events that made him a multi-millionaire.
That's amazing. That is fantastic. Um, let's see here. For Lynn, this feels like such a loving portrait. Eddie comes across so wonderfully through the course of the film. That said, were there any moments where the two of you had to negotiate the nature of the filming? I guess we've kind of answered this somewhat, either the father-daughter or filmmaker subject.
I would say no. I mean, we had a very open, we had a very fluid, relationship. Really, the most, the most negotiating went on, about time. How much time we would, be able to spend, and so no, it was quite wonderful, and it was quite wonderful to relive and share, stories together.
As I told, oh, is it okay if I say?
Yeah, yeah, please.
As I told friends, if my daughter was a baker, it would have been a lot simpler. She would have baked me a cake. She's a documentary maker. So that's what started it up.
Well, Lynn, there's still time to bake during the COVID, isolation. You can learn how to make his favorite cake still.
I just made my first apple pie during COVID, so starting in that.
All right, well, Eddie, you're on your way. The cake is coming your way shortly.
There you are. There you are.
So there's a question here. You grew up in Chicago. This person also grew up in Chicago and is wondering, what about the city of Chicago, did you find exciting and energizing, especially in terms of your inventions and interests in toys?
Well, everything really happened after the war. And I spent time in all my time on a submarine in the Pacific. And I went to school in San Francisco with the Navy. I went to school, the University of Houston with the Navy. So I had warm weather for quite a while. And I really knew I was going to come back to California someday. And we did early on. So but my experience in Chicago as a younger person, of course, was really spending time at the library researching stuff all the time. But I knew I was leaving Chicago for California, and my wife was felt the same way. And of course, nothing might have happened without her because she supported me right from the beginning. And so that was it.
Actually, picking up on that relationship with your wife, you mentioned that she had a couple of patents as well, and that you collaborated on some of your toy making, some of your inventions with her. Can you tell us about that? What was that collaboration like?
Well, she was always part of it. She backed me right from the beginning. She had faith in me, and she always knew what I was working on, and she made comments all the time. Besides raising the family, taking care of it, and going to school. She went to school all this time too, and she didn't have a chance before she was married, and she went all the way through to her master's, and so she had her own interest in all that, but she was always part of the toy idea part. So we worked together on a lot of things.
Well, that's a true partnership. That's marriage plus. Jannat, can you talk about how the innovative way that this film is being distributed and how it's getting, and just how much interest there's been and how much viewership, because it's really quite amazing.
It really is remarkable. Thank you for asking that question, because I really want to give a shout out to our partners at the New Yorker. They love this film, they embraced it, and they wanted to release it during the holidays. And they had a partnership also with Google. So the film not only was on the New Yorker site, but also on YouTube, and then some of the other channels through the New Yorker. So in Taiwan, I mean, we're close to probably cumulatively 1 million views right now of this special, beautiful film. And so obviously there's an appetite and a desire to see hopeful, uplifting stories and inspiring stories. And we're continuing to find ways to amplify, and people are still, I think it's like 10,000 views each week on average that are continuing. So it's just astonishing, really. And they're thrilled. They're just absolutely thrilled with the results.
Well, it's kind of a perfect format for a short, right? Because that's really where people go. People don't tend to go. I mean, I certainly don't go to the major normal streamers and distributors to consume shorts. It's a perfect place to go and see short content and see it successfully. So seems like a perfect partnership with the New Yorker.
Yeah, and they also wrote a lovely editorial piece. So I think, you know, jumping off with the story and then Eddy, and I mean, it's, you know, it's essentially gone viral between all of the promotion on the social channels. You know, the GQ viewing in Taiwan, 100 and, I mean, even the New Yorker was surprised that this particular film was selected, and then that it's gotten that many views. I mean, Eddy, your GQ is amazing.
Well,
If it keeps up, I've got to learn Chinese a little.
a little bit. Well, we're also, Eddy and Lynn, we're hoping for the sequel that will dive into Eddy's new writing chapter, poetry and stories, and what is keeping you occupied now, creatively and otherwise. Are you thinking of publishing any of your work?
Not poetry, but stories, but short stories, which I've written a lot of. But I kind of specialize in 100-word stories, which is really a worldwide hobby, which I just got onto about 8 or 9 years ago. And I've got close to a couple hundred now, right, Lynn? And so that's what we're concentrating on as well.
That feels like a great discipline. It feels very like you'd need tremendous discipline to figure out how to.
Yeah, it's sort of a project. It's exactly 100 words, not counting the title. My grandson saw them in Chile, so they're really all over. It's a wonderful hobby, and the newspaper ran a contest, and that's how I found out about it.
But we're working right now on a book of 100-word stories, which and it's really hard picking only 100 out of all the ones that he's written, but we're very excited about it, and you know, hope that that will come out in the next few months.
Where can we see
Eddy's
that?
100. It'll be 100
100,
words on Eddy's 100th.
right? Quite possibly. So,
Eddy, when is your birthday? When do you turn 100?
September 5th.
So we have some time to get the book finished, but right. But anyway, that any information on that will be on our website, of course. But that's also been great fun. Is, you know, really working together on. I mean, he's writing it all, but I'm just kind of helping a little bit. You know, just edit. You know, just like an copy editor or a little encouragement. You know.
Are there any other aspects of the film that you captured of Eddy that you want to put out, or other little shorts that you might want to put out?
I don't know. You know, one of the stories of one of the areas of my dad's life, of Eddy's life, that we certainly touch on in the film, but there's so much more, is his experience during World War II.
Yeah.
You know, in the submarine, you know, as a radar technician in the submarine service. And, you know, I have no idea whether we'll ever do something separate on that, but there are some really both great stories and important perspectives, you know, to really learn and understand of what it meant, you know, to, you know, for him to be in a submarine, you know, and, you know, to serve our country in that way, and what it meant for him, of course, as a child of immigrants, you know, to choose the, you know, to go during World War II, you know, to enlist and enlist in the Navy and be in the submarine service. So there's a lot of great stories with that, and so, you know, maybe we'll be able to explore a little bit more of that at some point.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. Really fascinating. Well, I just am so grateful to have had this time with you all and your amazing film. I hope everyone gets to see it. It's just such a salve right now during these dark times. And The story is uplifting. Eddie, your life story is just quite amazing, and it's I'm personally very grateful that your family has shared that with the world. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say? Because I think we're coming up out of time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah.
No, and same thing. Thank you, Bonnie. It's really been great. And it's really exciting to be able to talk about the film where we're all kind of understanding and, appreciating what it's about and, the filmmaking and Eddie's life. And I'm so happy that there's so much interest